A reading from 1 Samuel. Today is August 24th. Our reading from 1 Samuel is chapter 4. And Samuel's word went forth to all Israel. Israel marched out to engage the Philistines in battle. They encamped near Ebenezer, while Philistines encamped at Aphek. The Philistines arrayed themselves against Israel, and when the battle was fought, Israel was routed by the Philistines, who slew about 4,000 men on the field of battle. When the Israelite troops returned to the camp, the elders of Israel asked, "Why did the Lord put us to rout today before the Philistines? Let us fetch the ark of the covenant of the Lord from Shiloh. Thus he will be presenting among us and will deliver us from the hands of our enemies." So the troops sent men to Shiloh. There Eli's two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, were in charge of the ark of the covenant of God, and they brought down from there the ark of the covenant of the Lord of hosts enthroned on the cherubim. When the ark of the covenant of the Lord entered the camp, all Israel burst into a great shout, so that the earth resounded. The Philistines heard the noise of shouting, and they wondered, "Why is there such a loud shouting in the camp of the Hebrews?" And when they learned that the ark of the Lord had come to camp, the Philistines were frightened, for they said, "God has come to the camp." And they cried, "Woe to us! Nothing like this has ever happened before. Woe to us! Who will save us from the power of this mighty God? He is the same God who struck the Egyptians with every kind of plague in the wilderness. Brace yourselves and be men, O Philistines, or you will become slaves to the Hebrews as they were slaves to you. Be men and fight." The Philistines fought. Israel was routed, and they all fled to their homes. The defeat was very great. 30,000 foot soldiers of Israel fell there. The ark of God was captured, and Eli's two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, were slain. A Benjaminite ran from the battlefield and reached Shiloh the same day. His clothes were rent, and there was earth on his head. When he arrived, he found Eli sitting on a seat, waiting beside the road, his heart trembling for the ark of God. The man entered the city to spread the news, and the whole city broke out in a cry. And when Eli heard the sound of the outcry, he asked, "What is the meaning of this uproar?" The man rushed over to tell Eli. Now Eli was 98 years old. His eyes were fixed in a blind stare. The man said to Eli, "I am the one who came from the battlefield. I have just fled from the battlefield." Eli asked, "What happened, my son?" The bearer of the news replied, "Israel fled before the Philistines, and the troops also suffered a great slaughter. Your two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of God has been captured." When he mentioned the ark of God, Eli fell backward off the seat beside the gate, broke his neck, and died, for he was an old man and heavy. He had been a chieftain of Israel for 40 years. His daughter-in-law, the wife of Phinehas, was with child about to give birth when she heard the report that the ark of God was captured and that her father-in-law and her husband were dead. She was seized with labor pains, and she crouched down and gave birth. As she lay dying, the women attended her, saying, "Do not be afraid, for you have borne a son." But she did not respond or pay heed. She named the boy Ichabod, meaning "the glory has departed from Israel," referring to the capture of the ark of God and to the death of her father-in-law and her husband. "The glory is gone from Israel," she said, "for the ark of God has been captured."